Welcome everyone to another episode of Core Living, and in this one we are going to talk about emotional intelligence. Now, the reason I probably got inspired to talk about this because I not too long ago finished this book by Daniel Goldman called Emotional Intelligence, and up until I read that, I was probably not as aware of how much it is involved with your life and how important it is to have a good understanding of your emotions. And I also didn't understand how deeply it is embedded into your being. Some of these emotions that we pick up as young children, and as we get older, we carry all this stuff as we get older, and we don't even notice. It's like in our subconscious, it's there, and it becomes this guiding force that seems to navigate through our decision making, in the choices that we make, and it's so much a part of our lives that I think it's maybe important to talk about and get that out on the table. When it comes to emotional intelligence, like what rings a bell for you? What do you think about when you think emotional intelligence?
Well, obviously, if the keyword's intelligence there, which to me says that, as compared to regular intelligence, that it varies between high and low. Somebody with high emotional intelligence, I would imagine, would be able to navigate their emotions, be able to handle negative emotions, and be able to cultivate positive emotions better than somebody with a low social or emotional intelligence quotient.
One of the interesting things that, or claims that the book made, was that emotional intelligence actually usually becomes more of a predominant predictor of how well you will do in life than IQ. Your how intelligent you naturally are, and I think it kind of gets looked over in maybe our educational institutions, and when we're getting older. A lot of people put a lot of emphasis on how smart someone is, and how well they might grasp something, and they think, this kid's so good at math, or this, or so good at English or writing. I'm sure they're going to do really well in life. But it seems to be the case that those who actually have a better understanding and better control of their emotional state and being seem to do better in life when it comes to maybe grounding themselves in maybe a good job, or just having good relationships, and maybe working with their communities and stuff like that. Which is funny, because when I was a kid, no one told me that. There was such a big, heavy emphasis on make sure you get good grades. Get good grades, and you'll do fantastic when you get older. And very little put on how are you feeling, and Timmy, he's got an anger issue, and he hits the kids at recess, and kids will be kids, or they don't seem to put a lot of attention on, well, how can we harness that thing, help Timmy to better manage that anger, and maybe everything else will work its way out if we can help him sort out his emotions. Spend time with them. I don't know. Thoughts?
I've got lots of thoughts about it. I mean, one kind of test that I would be interested to see run would be when you tell a group of people, hey, a better predictor for success is emotional intelligence, not intellectual quotient. What do you guys think? And if everybody jumps up and down for joy, then that means it's likely not true. Because I think groups of people, the median IQ for all of North America is 100, and in any given community it's riddled with all kinds of issues and problems. And then another aspect of it is who's defining what success is. I mean, who's the one that says what success is and what success isn't? If success, to some kind of cultural schematic is how well somebody can be a worker in some kind of cog, then I mean, who cares what people think success is? It also just might be something stupid people tell themselves to feel better about themselves. Now that being said, I think there's some truth to it in the sense that what do you want to have, higher or lower of anything? Of course, if you can be better with your emotions, like if you're not going to be a friggin' emotional loser, of course you would choose to be better with it. You would want a more beneficial emotional situation. There's plenty of money poured into drugs for stabilizing emotions, and there seems to be
or nullifying emotions.
Or nullifying them, but I mean, maybe part of it is learning how to nullify emotions. If some of the work that you do with your emotions, the end result is that you, rather than being pulled by your emotions so hard, and you kind of dampen the feeling of having certain emotions, then, and there's chemicals that do that take the legwork out of it. I mean, that's a whole thing, and I'm not saying that's either good or bad. Maybe you miss some lessons when you take a shortcut to something like that.
Yeah. And maybe being able to feel through some of these emotions. I don't like the idea of maybe shutting my emotions off, which a lot of antidepressants seem to do. But to feel through an emotion, because those emotions that you're feeling, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they guaranteed are trying to tell your body something that you're not noticing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like an alarm system going off and helping you to register. And as long as you continue to feel that way, the solution, I don't think, is to, hack it and turn it off. It's to try and understand what your body is trying to tell you, so you can better fix the problem. And until it gets fixed, that alarm system is just going to continue to fire off. And those who can understand it, who can brave the harsh waters of some of the intense emotions that can come upon you, I think that is going to be a good navigator, driving force to help you, succeed. Maybe not in, like what you said, I don't know who deems what success is, but maybe just internally for yourself.
Is it Jeremiah 17:9? The heart is wicked above all else, or the heart is is deceptive above all else, and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I think that's the verse. I think it takes experience to know what people want. With chemical assistance, people can feel all kinds of things. Take a drug like MDMA or something like that, or something that makes your serotonins, explode. You can make some really bad decisions based on the fact that you're seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. You're too happy. But then again, I heard a successful kickboxer, like a champion of a kickboxer who did very well financially, talking about emotions, and he said he doesn't believe in depression. What he was saying was, his name's Andrew Tate. I'm not a huge fan of him, but he had an interesting point when it came to emotions, because he's successful by society's standards, makes a lot of money, and he said, I don't pay any attention to if I feel sad. It doesn't change a thing. He's like, some days, sometimes you have a reason to be sad, but some days everybody just kind of feels sad and they don't know why. He's like, it doesn't change a thing. I still go to the gym, I still lift weights, I still take care of my business. My emotions don't dictate my behavior. And, I think just a good look at what emotions are and the utility of them is important. Like, what are they there for? Like you said, your point was a good point when you said that they're indicators of sometimes something wrong or something good. And I think that I didn't say good, but yeah, you're right. But they can be indicators
yeah.
of something good if you, like, I think dopamine's released sometimes when you accomplish things, and so I think that's all important to keep in mind.
Another whole side caveat to this thing, which is really shocked me to learn about, was how much of your emotions are formed, like your understanding of them and your control of them are formed when you are young, versus built upon your circumstances as a child, and even in public school into high school. So much of those first year experiences and how you handle and how you are faced with certain life situations will form the way you use your emotions. But also another huge side to this is that your genetic makeup plays a giant role in how you handle your emotions. And with certain tweaks they found through scientific experiments and stuff like that, if you can tweak the brain or the mind, you can actually cause people to experience and handle emotions differently. They won't be so triggered towards anger. They'll move more towards, say, sadness in a certain experience, or not feeling anything to feeling now joy or empathy, by making certain tweaks to the brain. And they found that in a lot of, there was this one story I'll just throw out there. There was this doctor who had strong, the story might be in reverse, so don't hold me exactly to the story. But there was this doctor who all of a sudden had inclinations towards pedophilia and stuff like that, and he was like, I need help. He was like, help me, and they did X-rays on his brain and stuff like that, and they found out that he had a tumor. Mm-hmm. And then they took the tumor away, and all his urges went away. And it was a lot of people would be like, kill that monster, get that maniac. But imagine if we could cure some of the horrible things that are in our world simply by being able to tweak something in the brain or fix it.
Psychopathy.
Yeah, but you'd have to get rid of that desire to punish, and that's not just for that. That goes for all types of horrible things. A lot of how we act, the horrible things that humans can do, is based upon genetic makeup. How I don't know all the organic terms of the brain, but the way that they form, and some sides can become heavier and then others, in left and right brain, and how the brain sits on certain organic functions in the mind can cause you to act differently.
Yep. It's been documented many times of people with brain injuries, sometimes their entire character completely changing. The most famous one is, I can't remember the guy's name, but I'm sure a lot of people are privy to it. It was the guy he was a railroad worker, and something happened, and a railroad tie ended up getting rocketed right into his head, and he was the nicest, most moral kind of church-going guy, and afterwards he started swearing up a blue streak. He got abusive, he got violent from a brain injury.
Strokes are a big one.
Which is also another good reason why you shouldn't mess around too much with even substances that alter your brain chemistry. Because there's things I believe, my wife tells me this all the time, that apparently alcohol decreases your prefrontal lobes, alcohol affects your impulse control. So you actually over prolonged use, you can become more impulsive from over drinking. So that's a heads up. And I'm sure there are other, I'm sure it's the same, with serotonin syndrome, with something like MDMA. And there are even some studies with cannabis that are talk about not overly using it, not becoming dependent on it. And so, how about some things that for those of us out there that are drinkers and drug users and self-medicating, or just have bad emotional intelligence, what are the tricks? What are the things
Well,
to increase
some of
it?
the things I've learned, a lot of it is like, you can go back to the classic practices of, meditation. Everyone knows I'm big on that. But, mind techniques of like calming yourself, sitting down, sitting with your thoughts and questioning them. A lot of it has to do with just simply giving it attention. One of the problems with society is that we are so busy, it's so hard for us to sit down and find time to just like roll through all my emotions on a daily basis because, I got all the other stuff I got to do. But that really is what it comes down to. A lot of fixing some of the old broken things in terms of our emotions is all about giving it attention, sitting with it, and working through.
So like introspection even.
Yeah, and writing journals, writing your feelings down. Why do I feel that? Like, what am I really afraid of? Going through the layers of it.
What about, because this seems at least, okay, because one coping mechanism you may see with people is suppression of emotions, right? Like,
Yep.
I think we've already covered that, but I mean active suppression in terms of distracting yourself, right? Rather than sitting down and introspecting and actually setting aside time to do something that might come off as relatively boring to a lot of people. People will distract themselves, not think about things. Now, say it is sort of on the boring side to just kind of sit
Yeah.
and try to mull over things and ruminate on how, your childhood or what's going on. If you're a little bit ADD or something, do you think it would be good or bad to, like, I mean, some people pray, right? Like some people, when it's either embarrassing or just not appropriate to vent endlessly at other people, is there something to be said about something that could either be considered prayer or lamenting, just vocalizing what you're feeling? Because you had mentioned writing stuff down. Do you think it would be possible to get some kind of cathartic effect from simply going somewhere and almost doing sort of like a prayer, like venting to yourself, the universe, your gripe or what you're feeling, and kind of working it out that way?
Yeah, totally. Why not? I think that's definitely, you could give that a test shot. Another thing that you can do is once you've assessed where your weakness is, so say you're susceptible to rage or anger or something like that, and you always take it out. Well, on other people, one thing you need to do is like you set a map for your day. You know the things that get you angry, and so as you get closer to the things that you know that are going to cause you rage, you continue and just remind yourself and like just sit and feel with it and feel through the emotions. Try to pull yourself, if you know you're going to be getting into it, pull yourself back for a moment and sit with it.
You know what the fascinating thing about that is? That the benefits of that are pretty rapid. Like if you're an impulsive person, and I think it works like gangbusters for both impulsivity and obsessive compulsive tendencies. If you actually resist doing the satiating behavior that normally you would do and then you would regret later, if you resist it, the benefits happen right away. Like I think that you feel better immediately, you see the benefits, there's nothing to regret about having done that, but I think the mind is homeostatic, so even if you practice that a little bit, the bad side is you're going to be tempted to go back into letting your emotions carry you away.
Yeah.
That's probably a challenge you face, is going back into some of the behaviors that you'd learn how to control.
Yeah, a lot of this is built in habits. It's ingrained into our subconscious so much, it's so much so that say you were susceptible to say like anger, rage, or something like that. When the thing that makes you angry happens, before you can even have time to intellectualize the situation, there's like a bypass system in your chemistry that just jumps to anger. Before you can even...
that happened in traffic.
Yeah. So before you can, and so the only way to retrain that bypass system is to practice it and spend time with it, like I was talking about. And there are other, like you could look up. I'm sure there are lots of techniques you can look up, but you have to be really intentional about it. You have to make time for it if you want to be better with your emotions. If you want to understand them more, you're going to have to make time for it. You're going to have to work on it, just like everything else in life. And I know time's limited, but it is extremely important. If you're super sad all the time,
I read a book years ago called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I don't know if that was related to
you can watch that free on YouTube if you
want. It was either that or Emotional Intelligence for Dummies or something like that. Like it was a tinier version of that. But it was a lot of the stuff I picked up about it actually came from actualize.org. So shout out to actualize.org. Leo Gura, the guy that's the fake name. But the guy that runs the channel, he's talked a lot about emotional intelligence in the past. Yeah. Now he's kind of like woo-woo, but back in the day, he really talked about that sort of thing. And I mean, part of the issue is you could intelligently apply with like your IQ the information and practices to strengthen your EQ. You know, like that thing you said at the beginning. You know, it's a good predictor of this. People say a lot of things that I'm not. I mean, it's too broad of a statement. It doesn't narrow down exactly what success is, and it's negating the fact that certain strong emotions can be strong motivators. Like I've thought a lot about what anger is and what its like usefulness is, and I mean the most obvious thing is that it's like tandem with adrenaline. So if you get frustrated, it may, I think what it does is it keys into adrenaline and it gets you motivated. You know, there's a lot of like lazy people complaining about motivation and buying motivational books, and you don't need another motivational book. You need to get angry. You may need to get angry and get your butt in gear. Sometimes it's only like the disdain you have for your own self or your situation, repulsed by your own situation, that'll actually cause you to get angry enough to start doing something.
Well, anger speaks to the past. Your anger, the emotion anger, that rage doesn't come from nowhere. That rage comes from being burnt in the past.
Or in the near past.
You don't like when you've come into new situations, your instant response isn't anger. The anger comes from something you've experienced in the past, and you're bringing it into the present moment. That emotion, anger, if you look at it, from what I've studied, it sounds like anger is deeply rooted in your past, from something being hurt by someone or something not working out for you in a certain way, and so.
But it's utilitarian too. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't think people should be going around trying to get angry or not taking a good look at what their anger is. I don't think that. But the fact of the matter is, there are some people that when they were a kid were ignored or something like that, and they end up the loudest, angriest person. And you know, sometimes that doesn't work out so well, and then sometimes it does. Sometimes it makes them the next Mike Ditka. You know what I mean? Like Bears coach that won the you know what I mean? It may turn somebody into somebody that can channel that into something that more resembles passion than it does like contempt or something like that. You know, and we've only really talked about anger here. You know what I mean? But I'm saying there's varying types of anger. Like, I mean, there's self-righteous anger. There's the kind of anger where, you know, you're frustrated at some kind of injustice, and it motivates you to do something about it. Depression is a fascinating one. I think you should talk a little bit about depression.
Yeah,
that seems to be like a big issue for a lot of people.
Depression, maybe I'm talking off the cuff and I don't know what I'm talking about, but maybe it has something to do with guilt. You're feeling sad But really it's about like maybe...
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, you might be feeling sad about something that you've done or not adding up to something, your current situation. I don't know, might feel...
That's the other thing about emotions is it's like you feel sad, like you can't tell the chicken or the egg which came first, the issue that caused the depression or the depression that caused the issue, right?
Yeah.
And I think what you're like, as you're saying, depression can oftentimes be some sort of guilt, but that could be like a very subtle guilt. That could be like a guilt of the fact that you're not doing more with your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't always have to be like, you know, you feel guilty because you've perpetrated some kind of bad thing.
I felt that I heard other people say it's like you're angry at yourself. It's like internal anger, being angry with yourself. I don't know. What about sadness? Take sadness. What's sadness?
What's the difference between sadness and depression?
I don't know. Maybe
like, are you talking about grievance? Like
no,
grieving?
just maybe I don't know that feeling of down. Maybe it's in the present moment. It's more of a present emotion. The
melancholy.
Just lacking drive, feeling just not feeling good. I don't know.
It may have to do with, like, when you get something that's a little different than depression, where it's like melancholy, right? You go to work one day and the sky's gray and you're like, I don't know, you know, I had a coffee which should be jiving me up, but I just feel off. I just feel sort of down, sort of downsy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that may have to do with the fact that you do not enjoy the situation you're in. Like you've got guilt towards, how did I put myself here? Or I gotta do this on a day like today. You know what I mean? That it may be the guilt thing again, and then that may turn into anger, which turns into motivation. You know? But the interesting thing is that you can kind of get a pretty clear idea of where these emotions are coming from. You know what I mean?
If you just sit with it and think about it for a while.
People are so quick to run to the doctor and be like, give me a pill to end this. Or run to some kind of professional. Like, you have access to the internet. If you want to understand your anger or understand your depression, and I'm not like, I'm not saying that come here and we'll help you figure it out. But what I'm saying is that
there's information out there.
If you are depressed and you're like, I don't get what's wrong, you know, I eat Cheetos all day and I watch tons of entertainment, it's like, of course you're depressed. Like, that's not a pill will not save you from that hole. It won't. Maybe it will, but like that seems like a perversion of appropriate steps.
Yeah, it's the marveling factor is like how far you will be willing to go to avoid. Usually, when you don't want to look at your emotions because you don't want to change something, there's something that you don't want to change. So if I can take a route around the change option.
Yes. And that's so true, and that should be unpacked. I don't know how much time we got, but that idea should be unpacked either now or in some other video. The idea of resistance and procrastination, because it's like they're in that realm of depression.
Yeah.
And that is like, I want to figure that one out because I procrastinate too much. That's what I've been working on lately is like, why am I procrastinating so hard? I want to do this thing. I'm excited about this thing. And it's almost like I get overly stimulated about the thing I want to do. And then it turns into...
A few things come right to mind right away. Like fear that if I put my effort into something new, it won't be accepted in the way that I want it to be accepted or acknowledged in the way that I want it.
Yeah.
I don't believe in myself. If I go out and I set out and I can't accomplish it, then what does that say about me? Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of, you can just go down the list, but it seems like there's a lot of things that could prevent you.
Personally, I don't feel like it's a I don't believe in myself because I'm a little more by nature reckless than that. I'm willing to do things and like. Actually, that might be it.
Afraid to...
like, what I mean is, I have done lots of different things with my life. I've had several different careers. I've had lots of different endeavors, all with varying degrees of success. Some of them very high success. But I think So I don't know why I said that first part, because I actually think it probably is maybe a lack of belief in that the results will reflect the amount of effort put into it. Because here's part of the problem.
That's another thing. Fear of what you're gonna have, what you just said. Fear of if you commit to new change, well, that's gonna require effort.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to work hard.
Well,
and old habits don't die easy.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, it's going to be no sweat just to totally change this thing that's been ingrained in me over time.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to have to sweat it out for the next year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then that becomes overwhelming. You don't want to do that. But it might be exactly what you need.
Well, I think some of these things get a little more tough the older you get. When you're young, you're a little bit more, the world's more forgiving, first of all, for different things that you do that you either are, aren't a success or don't work out quite right. The older you get a little bit, I think the tendency is you get kind of jaded, because it's funny, there's enough motivation for things that are guarantees. Like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to work because I know without a doubt when I put my hours in today, I'm going to get a guaranteed check. When it gets murky, I've had endeavors that I did work pretty hard on. I did very well academically and stuff like that. And sometimes when you get the reward, you're like, this isn't really worth it. The reward is it didn't fix it. It didn't. So there's two things. One, I'm going to accomplish what I set out to do, and then what? And what if it doesn't satisfy me? And two, what if I pour in a bunch of effort into this thing and it gets not a good result at all? Then it's just wasted time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I hear.
Sorry, I'm like having my own therapy session.
It's good. Woo. I think all good points. I think it's definitely something to be thought about.
We didn't really solve anything though.
We talked about it. I think putting attention on your emotions is a big key to building up that emotional intelligence if you want to. You don't have to. And you can decide for yourself whether or not you think it's a better predictor than IQ. You'll have to go discover that for yourself. That's just one man's claims.
It's from that book.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. And the good news about that claim is that you cannot make your IQ higher. You can't. The studies are in. You can't raise your IQ, but you can raise your EQ.
Yeah.
You can actually do something about that. So that's good news.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a fair point to make a point of saying, is that you can actually alter your EQ.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is that also discussed there is that it's a better predictor of your success if you can do that. There are plenty of intelligent people that are a mess.
Also, breaking out of that ridiculous. I know when people are like, "Well, I'm just angry because I'm Irish." You're not angry because you're Irish. You can fix that. It's not if you're just gonna. You're not bound by your emotions or the way that you respond to certain situations. You can work on it, which I think is good news.
It's good news for everybody.
You can work on it if you want to, and who knows whether it's positive emotions, which we didn't really even talk about positive emotions, but there's tons of positive emotions. Wouldn't you love to have a little bit more happiness, joy, contentness in your life?
And that's why I wanted to talk about how your outlook changes depending on your base level emotions, right? Because some people will hear what we just said and they'll go, and it will be spun by their mind into a negative, but it's because their outlook is negative. They have no ability to see what's been said as good news.
Yeah.
Right? One person, it's pessimist versus optimist, right? One person sees that and goes, I've got low EQ. I guess that means I'm screwed. No matter how smart I am, I guess I'm screwed. Mm-hmm. And then another person will look at it and say, hey, good news, I can actually do something about that. I think you're more likely to say, hey, good news, I can actually improve that. Great. if you already are experiencing good emotions.
Yeah.
One person may say, well, it doesn't matter how good I feel because, if the IQ guy, his feelings are, now thanks for letting that information out because some guy that was intelligent but a mess, now he's going to do that and he's just going to run circles around me. Or you could say, you want your smart people to feel good too. That way they won't turn into tyrants. That's way they won't, who do you want the stuff to go to?
Yeah.
Morons.
Yeah.
And so all of those things, you start by trying to increase your emotions, and there's practical things you can do to do that, to generate good emotions. Good health, exercise, different things like that actually produce better baseline emotions, I think.
Yeah.
Probably talked about that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots you can do. So there you have it. There's some things. Hopefully you guys like this conversation. There's something you can use in there. Write something down in the comments if you think there's something that we missed. But I hope everyone out there enjoyed this episode. And why don't you smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it with a friend and everybody. Until next week.
I wanted to also plug the YouTube channel a little bit, my cartoon channel.
Oh, he's got Tom Starfield.
Well, the YouTube channel is actually called Barney Eaglewood.
Oh, okay.
The name of the YouTube channel is Barney Eaglewood. Check it out and subscribe to it because if it starts getting subscribers, I may start making more Tom Starfield cartoon. It's like a little
there you go, folks.
Cartoon with some humor in it. Check it out.
So everyone who's on my YouTube, check out Barney Eaglewood. His cartoon's called It's Tom Starfield.
That's a cartoon, yeah.
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. And he'll make some more.
And both are Redbubble accounts.
And both Redbubble accounts. You can check those out too.
With merchandise and different designs.
I'll promote. I'll try to get a link and everything set up.
You can see the artwork that our crazy minds actually came up with and put on everything from masks to coffee cups to t-shirts to...
Yeah.
Check it out.
Check it out. But everyone, until next time, stay spiritual.